The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.
As you might know, there are lots of systems that can generate music autonomously, but the thing is that most of them actually focus on just small compositional tasks, such as, for example, the generation of melody or harmonization. So what we'd like to do here is to present a system that is able to kind of simulate the overall compositional process in pop music. And in this particular case, PopSketcher, which is the name of our system, is able to generate a sketch for a pop song. But first of all, what is a sketch? Well, for us, sketches just contain basic information for pop songs, such as form, harmony, and lead vocal melody. And so, in a sense, these are just blueprints that can be further developed in fully shaped songs. And so, here we have an overview of the system. So, the very important thing to say is that PopSketcher is based on an objective-oriented paradigm. So it is a kind of very modular system with many subsystems. So these are the main four subsystems. So the first one is responsible for deciding tempo for a sketch. Then we have, these are the one here, which is responsible for generating form. And then we have this other one here, which is responsible for harmony. And the output of this module actually is fed into these other module, which is responsible for generating melody. So that's just, you know, the workflow for our algorithm. And so now we can look at the details for the three main modules. So let's start from form. So PopSketcher looks at form as a kind of three-level hierarchical structure. So what it does, it actually generates a three-level structure based on a probabilistic context-free grammar. Then it decides the length of roles. And by roles, I mean just the roles which are chorus, verse, bridge. So it decides the number of bars for each role. And then the other thing it does, it decides the length of units by using another probabilistic context-free grammar. And by units, we mean just those harmonic patterns that repeat always the same throughout the same chorus. For example, you have a unit which is just the tonic and the dominant, and it repeats the same throughout the verse or the chorus. So once we have this three-level hierarchical structure, we move to harmony. And so PopSketcher considers the 24 major and minor chords only, and these are functionally organized around a harmonic tonic. And so these are the four steps that the harmony subsystem, carries out. So first thing, it decides the number of chords per unit. And to do that, it uses a brute force approach with a fitness function, so it decides which is the best number of units in a specific row. And then it decides the chord position, and it decides actually where to put different chords in the metrical structure. And then here we have the core of these subsystems, which actually selects the chords. And to do that, we use a dynamic Bayes naive classifier. And finally, we just choose the tonic, because up until here we just have numerals, and then we decide tonic, and so we can just have tonic and a functional, fully shaped functional harmony. And so once we have the harmony, we move to melody. And of course this is the vocal melody, and these melodies are based on major, minor, or pentatonic scales. And the thing is that part of the subsystem of the melodic subsystem is still under development. So here we have four steps. So the first step is to decide which scale to use, and to do that we use a hidden Markov chain. Then the subsystem moves to the next step, which is actually decide the melodic relationships between different phrases. So in a verse, of course, you are going to have different phrases, and you should just decide which phrases is similar to which other phrase, or whether or not two phrases are different or similar. And then we just arrives here, and here we have this step which is responsible for generating rhythm, and the final step is responsible for generating pitch. But the thing is that these two tasks are still under development, so there's a lot of future work to do for this work. And the first thing is to complete the implementation, and then of course we are going to evaluate the system. And finally, we'd like to expand the functionalities of the system by adding an extra subsystem which will be responsible for orchestrating sketches, so that we can move from sketches to fully shaped songs, pop songs. So, to wrap everything up, we introduced PopSketcher, which is just a framework able to generate some sketches for pop songs. And what the system can actually do is actually simulate part of the compositional process of songwriters. And another interesting application of this system is that it can actually be used to help songwriters write better songs, so help songwriters write songs. And finally, it can be the basis for a complete automatic pop song generator that, as I just said, will be just the next step for it. So that's it.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.